So I have a few disclaimers to start this video off. Uh, if you were to play a build like this, I would heavily suggest just playing the stereotypical meta like ZHP Ice Trapper build, as it's pretty much the same exact gear as this, but it is more convenient and easier to play. I am trying this out because I want to, not because I think it's the best. I just want to let you guys know that, obviously, as we talk about this in the video. Now that that's out of the way, Discharge has been one of my favorite skills for a very long time. I started playing Path of Exile in 3.0, and every single league I would always try to play something related to Discharge. Now, I haven't been able to play it for the past 4 years because my life has been consumed by a different game, so I haven't been able to visit our old friend Discharge, and holy shit did it get kind of a rework. I'm not sure if I like the new version of Discharge versus the old version. I do know that there's the Transfigured gem, and we've looked into it more and more, and as it currently stands, I don't know how I feel about it, but we are playing it. Now, the whole point of us playing Discharge right now was the red trail, right? The Foulborn version, there was like a power charge on hit version that was interesting while bleeding, and that version didn't really work that well because it turns out you cannot have the power charge on hit while bleeding and the frenzy charge on hit while bleeding at the same time. Even though PWDB says you should be able to do it, we could not find a single pair that had both these modifiers. So I guess it doesn't matter. It's just whatever. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe PWDB is wrong. Whatever the problem is, we couldn't do that. So we ended up setting this entire Discharge build up with the idea that we're going to be able to do that, and we weren't able to do it. So we had to do something else. Now, what's really interesting is Assassin got reworked this patch, and one of the nodes that was very controversial and people really didn't understand how to use it or the thought process behind it was Shadowed Blood. It's like, oh, this isn't going to be good for the first few days of the league. Yeah, well, not everything's going to be good for the first few days of the league, you know? There's going to be some things in Path of Exile that are better once you have some time to think about things. And Shadowed Blood is one of those things. Unaffected by damaging ailments. There's a lot of different ways you can take this. There's like the staff that gives you a lot of benefits if you're ignited. There's stuff that gives you benefits while you're poisoned, but we're specifically caring about ailments that deal damage that are bleeding. They don't deal damage to us. So we can apply bleeds and then reflect them with the golden rule, and then we can count ourselves as bleeding. So this gives us a few things. First things off, it does give us some armor while bleeding, which is nice, not that bad. But it also gives us gain a frenzy charge on hit while bleeding. The reason why this is so interesting is because when you're an assassin and you're playing a Discharge build, you have plenty of access to power charge on hit. You can create power charges pretty much out of thin air very easily as long as you have some kind of hit sources. It's not that difficult. The issue comes from trying to get a very large amount of frenzy charge on hit. Now, there are sources, they do exist, like for instance is Bound by Destiny, of course. You can get it from there, you can get it on the passive tree, like 10%, but the problem is all of these sources are all kind of more RNG based, as they're like 10%, 15%. So we decided to utilize the red trail, and we are reflecting a bleed on us with our wand attack. Now, this allows us to gain a frenzy charge on hit. Now, this can allow us for a lot of disgusting amounts of hits, as we can go with a kinetic rain, which hits and then applies our bleed. We tested kinetic rain and kinetic rain of impact. It seems like as though kinetic rain counts as two different instances of damage in terms of application of getting extra power charges and frenzy charges. So we're going with normal kinetic rain right now, even though I don't really like the base attack speed on it. Then we also have a spell slinger ball lightning of static, which is absurd, by the way. Ball lightning of static hits a bunch, a very large amount, which is nice. And then we're also utilizing a tornado of elemental turbulence as well, because we can have 3 of those, and those hit 4 times per second. And all of these spells and abilities allow us to hit targets plenty of times to get us all the way up to our current maximum of power charge and frenzy charges, which is 14. Right now, we are doing the stereotypical power charge stacking with like void batteries, plus power charges everywhere. We're running a badge of the brotherhood to make it so that we get frenzy charges too, and we're simply consuming all of those charges and we're blowing up the screen. That is the whole concept of the build, and that will be the concept of the build. And because of this concept of the build and how we're going with the ZHP nature of it, we're just going to be farming Eater and Exarch all day. That is the concept of this build, and that will be the only thing this build does. Now, I have taken this build into T16s. It can clear, and in theory, we could make it tankier to do maps, which it would be completely fine at doing. But right now, I wanted to like play around with all of the different farming methods in Path of Exile to kind of catch up, because I've been wanting to take kind of like a tour, and this is my ZHP bossing tour. So we're playing Discharge for this today. But yeah, this combo allows us to generate a very large amount of power charges and frenzy charges very easily, which then means that all we have to do is just scale the damage to the roof. Now, there are some caveats and some things we had to learn along the way. First things off, of course, we did have to build accuracy for our wand attack. That was very important, so you can actually hit the target, so you can bleed the target consistently, then get the frenzy charge on hit. That has been absurdly important, it seems. Also, as well, we had to mess around with a bunch of different skills. We messed around with Hydrosphere. We messed around with Firestorm of Pelting. We messed around with a lot of different skills, and the one that won the cake, everything, like the one that just won was putting Ball Lightning Ecstatic on Spellslinger. And thanks to a Mr. Poop Butts video for recommending trying Ball Lightning Ecstatic on Spellslinger, it fucking slaps. What's really nice about it is it has a cooldown and it sits down and it hits enemies constantly. But what's interesting about it is it actually stores cooldowns on use. So you have 3 uses of it that's just up all the time. And then you just use them, boop, 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 whenever you attack. So whenever I do actually stop to attack, I use all of them and we get a burst of hits. And this burst of hits is enough to instantly get us to our power charge and frenzy charge cap, which is why we're able to generate charges so quickly. Because remember, we're up to like 14 power and frenzy charges. We need some generation to make this actually fucking work. And sure as hell, Ball Lightning Ecstatic is enough to make that work, right? We tried all these other spells, and like Ball Lightning Ecstatic won by an absolute mile. So thank God for that, right? But yeah, and for wand attacks, we tried a bunch of different ones, but Kinetic Rain with triggering Kinetic Anomaly seemed to be the most consistent version of this build. Now, another reason why we wanted to play this build was a friend of mine is also playing some sort of power charge stacker for his own build. He's not doing it exactly like this. He's playing something entirely different, but I don't want to like leak that build because that build is absurd. But he required a synthesis +1 maximum power charge ring to function. And I needed a +1 power charge synthesis ring to function as well, that we can use a Kalandra's Touch to copy, right? Well, I wanted this as well. So I decided, I was like, hey, brother, you want to like go 50-50 on this? And we ended up getting a 150 Divine Plus synthesis ring with double implicit and high item level, and it looks cool as well because the unset ring base actually looks pretty, right? So we ended up buying this instead. It's terribly rolled, and that's because I rolled it on a budget. We do plan on scouring this fucking thing and re-rolling it, but the problem is my friend has to re-roll it anyways for his build because his build is more complicated of what he wants on it. So that's why I'm not investing too much on the modifiers. It's simply just here for the +1 power charge for my build. You could replace it with like a Circle of Nostalgia or like whatever circle that has like a +1 power charge on it, and then Kalandra's Touch that one. Like you could make this a lot cheaper. It's just we decided to go with the rings. Now, another thing as well is we're going the triple ring route with Unseen Hand again. with the Nameless Ascendancy. That is simply because since we're going to be bossing the entire time, we really don't care if we have flasks all the time. It's not that big of a deal. We don't need flasks when we're killing bosses because, they don't have uptime anyways. And getting an extra power charge and a power charge stacker turns out that's a pretty big deal, especially when you have something like Badge of the Brotherhood. Also, as well, another reason why we're having a lot of fun with this build is because of the fact that we nailed probably one of the most disgusting Bound by Destinies I've seen so far playing this game. Uh, and also as well, like my friend also saw this and shat his pants. We got a Bound by Destiny that has a 2 Shaper item for cooldown recovery speed, a Frenzy Charge on hit with 4 Redeemer items, and a +1 maximum power charge if 6 Crusader items are equipped. If this seems kooky, that's because it is, and that's why all our items are kooky, our item choices are kooky, that's why our Void batteries are Crusader Redeemer. That's why our helmet is Warlord Crusader. That's why our chest is Shaper Crusader. That's why all of our items are all over the place in terms of their influences, and it's because of this Bound by Destiny. We have a very specific one. Do you need the Frenzy Charge on hit with Redeemer mod? No, but you do definitely want the cooldown recovery, and you do want the +1 maximum power charge, because that just leads to you having a more damage. Now, once we're done with this character and we get the Corrupt on the helmet eventually, we are going to have 15 power charges and we're going to have 15 frenzy charges, and that's going to deal a lot of damage. We also need to get a +4 chest as well. That is something that we can eventually craft thanks to fossils and how influence bases work. That's another thing that we have to do. There's a few things we have to do to refine this build, but it's very close to being finished. I will try to make a mapping version of this. I'm not promising that though. Like, I will try to make a mapping version, but that's going to be it for me today. With all that being said, this has been Dread, off to go do something else. Bye.